All right, next question. This could be an interesting one. How much belief do you have in the distributors causing most of the price hikes? We've talked a little bit about this in some of the GPU update videos that we've been doing, talking about the market and all that. So a lot of the information is going to be pretty similar to what's available in those videos. But basically, as far as we can tell from sort of speaking to all sorts of people in the industry, is that the distributors and also the OEMs themselves tend to be primarily responsible. If I had to lay blame on anyone, so out of the retailers, distributors, OEMs, and the GPU manufacturers themselves, then some of the primary causes appear to be the distributors and the OEMs. So the distributors they're in a really good position because in the retail market, for example, there's competition. So you could go to your favorite retailer. Let's say in the US, you could buy from Newegg, you could buy from Micro Center, you could buy from more boutique retailers, you could buy from Amazon. So there's not an incentive for one, let's say Newegg, to charge you $300 for a $200 product because their direct competitor is not going to do that. And that will put them at a disadvantage. So when you've got competition in the retail market, it makes it unlikely for prices to be inflated. And so a lot of people are placing the blame on retailers because they see the high prices. They're like, oh my God, you're selling that for double the MSRP. The retailers being really scummy, but they're in a competitive market. They can't do that. Whereas the distributors, they tend to be a monopoly. So if you look at in, let's say, the Australian market, for example, each brand, might work with a distributor, but you're not going to see ASUS use two distributors. There'll be the ASUS distributor. The MSI will use the MSI distributor. Gigabyte will use the Gigabyte distributor. So when you're in this monopolistic market where if you wanted to buy Gigabyte GPUs, you have to go through their distributor, then that distributor can set whatever price they want.
And worse still, they do the bundles and stuff, which I've seen evidence of that from multiple different sources.
Same.
And so while I'm not saying that retailers don't do that at all, for the most part, those dodgy bundles you see with a motherboard you don't want to buy with a graphics card or whatever it may be, they are due to the distributors making the retailer purchase X. If they want 10 GPUs, they have to buy X amount of motherboards and then they have to get rid of them. And that'll be like, probably shouldn't have given Gigabyte as the example, but say, we've got no evidence that it's Gigabyte doing this, but if it was a Gigabyte official distributor, then they obviously want to move, Gigabyte motherboards that didn't sell terribly well and stuff like that.
Yeah, so when you're in this situation where one company is dictating all the stock to you, they can do these sorts of things like raise prices or bundle because who else are you going to buy those cards from? There's no one else. You have to buy through that channel. So the distributors can do whatever they want. And I guess what we've heard as well is that the extent to which prices are inflated and bundling happens does vary from distributor to distributor.
Region to region.
And region to region. So one brand's distributor may go down the bundling path, and that's really heavily what they're pushing, which can be used to say, let's say they're a company that also, as you say, sells motherboards, then they can flog off their A520 motherboards that no one wants and get rid of some of their stock that they need to sell. Whereas another brand, maybe they don't have alternative products that they're selling. Maybe they'll sell them with OEM systems, or maybe they'll really restrict stock or just sell straight to miners. There's a whole bunch of different paths that these companies do, but generally speaking, all the distributors do one form of price hikes in some way. And then on top of that, as we've talked about, OEMs as well are just straight up raising the MSRP of their cards. So that you add their distributor, shenanigans on top of that, and you start to get to the really bad situation. So, most of the discussions we've had with the GPU manufacturers themselves are all very disappointed at this situation where, there's a lot of frustration. These companies are selling these cards to AIBs and they're selling them for really low amounts, and then the AIBs are just like, we'll make 75% margin. So there's a lot of frustration on that side. So yes, unfortunately, that's kind of the situation that we're in. And if you want to go and find a distributor and blame them, then you're probably quite on the money, I would have to say.